Hey guys, Dwayne here. Today I want to talk a little bit about when you feel overwhelmed. I've received a couple of email messages about this, and there's been some comments to some of the videos where people are expressing just how the situation is so overwhelming, and they feel so lost, and they feel that the system has failed them, that they just they get into a position where you don't feel like there's any future or there's any way to get through it. And I can relate to that, right? I mean, when I was first started this, I went through the exact same emotions and feelings, and it can be really devastating because you get caught up in everything that's going on at the time, and it's you're looking at it from that laser focused vision, and it's like it amplifies everything that's going on. It amplifies the pain, the hurt, the loss, the animosity, just everything that's happening, and it can get completely overwhelming. I know for me at the beginning of this, just the idea of what could happen, well, coupled with what was actually happening, it felt like everything everything I had worked for my entire life was being stripped away. All the successes, all the, everything I'd gained personally and professionally, the relationships with my kids, the whole nine yards was just being obliterated at an alarming rate. And I felt that this other person was doing everything in their power to facilitate that. Now, the one positive thing, and I've talked about this before, about my particular situation is I had people who were telling me the potential of what could happen. So I was prepared for it to some extent, not completely, but enough to where when buttons were being pushed, I wasn't necessarily responding. I've also mentioned that in the line of work I do, I deal with a lot of difficult people on a recurring basis. So there's a lot of instances where those people are trying to push your buttons, trying to get you to react, to try to get you off guard, to get advantage. Now, in retrospect, now I realize most of those people were narcissistic people because they fit the exact traits. Their tactics are in line with it. So in some ways I had an advantage just because I knew how to deal with that. So I just took that knowledge and rolled it into what I was dealing with my ex. Meaning I knew that when she was pushing my buttons that she was trying to get a reaction. And I thought she was trying to get a reaction to get me to do something to make a mistake so that then she could pull the domestic violence card and stuff like that. I even actually said that in a couple of different hearings with the mediator and I think with the custody evaluator. Not exactly the smartest move because as soon as you start going down that road, you start looking paranoid and stuff like that. And I remember even having a conversation once with my attorney where I said that was happening, and he was like, well, that's not what's going on. That's, you're blowing it out of proportion. And any of us that have gone through this know that, no, we're not blowing out of proportion. It absolutely is what's going on. And we do need to take steps to protect ourselves. But we need to not be paranoid about it when we do it, because all it does is it falls into their hand, and it helps validate or justify whatever it is they're trying to say. So there's a two-phase approach to this when you're dealing with this, right? And the first one is as soon as you can recognize what you're dealing with, you have to modify how you're dealing with the person and how you're interacting, right? If you cannot engage with them without having a problem, then you need to not engage with them, and you need to do everything via email and be very measured on how you do it. Secondly, if you've gotten yourself into a bind, meaning that you weren't prepared for this, they basically blindsided you with it, you probably reacted negatively, and now you're dealing with a situation where you have limited visitation, limited custody, and you're trying to fight back. Now, the first thing you have to do is you have to take a pause and look at the long-term goal of this entire thing. And guys, that is super tough, because what I will tell you, when I started this, I think I was 43. So at 43, my retirement was destroyed. My pension was effectively cut in half, and my pension wasn't that high either. And my entire future looked pretty bleak. Okay. So it was real easy for me to get really mad about that. Then on top of all that, I had the issues with my kids being triangulated against me, and an active smear campaign going on to try to turn the kids against me, turn everyone possibly they could against me, to basically, her goal was to try to get more custody. So here's the deal. You have to look farther than, farther than tomorrow, farther than next week. You really have to take a step back, and you have to look at the longer term goal. Okay. And what I mean by that is, find a way to deal with what you're dealing with right now. If it's finances, find a way to where you are okay. You cannot look at it in the terms of what you had before. And you cannot absolutely look at it in the terms of what you have, what's being taken from you, and what you actually get to do, because it's just going to make you angry, right? What the stage you're in now, if you're at this, if you're having, where you're feeling overwhelmed and the process is completely beating you down, the stage you're in now is you need to basically hunker down for the long haul. Okay. And the reason why that's so critically important is because if you can stabilize yourself, basically effectively take the punches that the X is going to throw at you, and look at the long-term goal, that's where you're going to get your peace, right? And what I mean by that is look at, how can you rebuild later? Don't look at what you lost. I mean, a lot of people lose things, right? A lot of people lose jobs. A lot of people have tragedies that happen in their life that severely impact their future. Okay. Ours is a little different because you have somebody who you trusted who's actively trying to destroy you, which makes it a little different, but makes it a lot different. But you have to be able to look long term at where you're going to be and how you're going to recover from this. And if you can't, and if you don't see it, and I say that from my perspective as well, because for a long period of time I didn't see it, right? Then I just put it out of my head and I focused on today. Right. And what I mean is that if you can't, if right now you cannot see the 15-year mark, don't look at the 15-year mark. Ignore the 15-year mark or the 18-year mark or whatever the heck it is, and look at today. What can you do to get through today? And don't look at it from, I could have got through this if, they hadn't taken this, and this from me and the custody and, whatever. You can't look at it that way because it will destroy you. And the importance of this is that it builds on itself, right? Once you find a place to where you can find some joy or some peace, I guess, in your situation, it builds on itself, right? And then things start to work out on their own. You start to, new doors are open up, new avenues come up, new possibilities that you never even would have thought of. I've talked about this before where I say, like in my own situation, the future that I thought that I had is gone, right? Everything that I thought I saw with that other person is destroyed, right? What I've come to realize is the future that I see now without her is tremendously better. And that didn't happen overnight, okay? That took a lot of time for me to get to the point where that really was the case. So if you find yourself in this situation where you're just so angry and depressed, some people even mentioned, being in really dark places. If you're in that situation, you need to get help. I've made videos about this before. I'll put a card up. I don't know where it's at. One of those things that goes across the screen for one of the other videos I made about a buddy of mine who is specifically going through something like this and was in a really dark place. And months later, he's doing a lot better. And at that particular time, it wasn't really sure what was going to happen. You have to just find a way to persevere and endure through this. If you don't have the relationship with the kids you want, you work on what you have. If your custody is so low because you your ex was able to play the system against you, or maybe you blew up and you made some mistakes and now they've used it to keep you away, you need to accept that, acknowledge what you did, and do things to try to recover from it, and then try to build up visitation and custody with your kids. It doesn't mean that it's going to be exactly the way it is right now. You can work to fix it. But see, that's the key though, guys, is you have to work towards it. And it doesn't matter where you're at on this, right? What I mean is that my situation really isn't that bad right now. Well, it wasn't bad once the divorce was final because I got 50-50. But even at that early stages, I was actively, the kids were being pushed and used against me. And I fell victim to that and I made mistakes that made it worse. Okay. So then I had to recover from that, right? So every one of those mistakes I made pushed everything back to where I had to take a step back, reevaluate the situation, and start working to make it better. And I firmly believe no matter how bad you've made it, or how bad it is, I guess made is not the right word, but however bad your situation is, if you can do that and start rebuilding, you can start making changes. Now, it's not going to be easy, and I'll throw this out here before I wrap this up with your kids. You are going to take a lot of figurative punches in the face on that, because if they're angry at you and they're lashing out at you, they're going to continue to do that. And part of it's a test, right? Part of it is they're trying to they think that they're believing the reality that's been said about you, and you have to demonstrate through your own actions that it's not true. And slowly with time, you can start rebuilding that relationship. But you have to get a handle on your anger, and you have to get a handle on your emotions through this situation, because that's critical. Because every time that you lose that, you are going to set yourself back, and you're going to set the relationship with your kids back. So I hope maybe I might need to revisit this topic a little bit more. But hopefully that makes some sense. If you want to add some more discussion in the comments below, please do that. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up. If the channel's helping you, please subscribe, and I will talk to you guys in the next video. Take care. Bye.